Akshay, the Taliban have been a main terrorist problem to the whole world, and people are starting and governments are starting to make more resolutions to this. But to start off, who are the Taliban?
The Taliban is a terrorist group currently occupying Afghanistan, and like every terrorist group, their main ideologies is to promote non-democratic ideas and obviously have the most power in this world.
Why do you So you said that the Taliban's target was Afghanistan. Well, why do you think they wanted to target Afghanistan in the first place?
So Afghanistan was already a corrupt country, and they were fighting a war against the U.S., who were defending Afghanistan for almost 20 years. And since the U.S. decided it's no longer worth to fight this war, they decided to retreat their troops. And since Afghanistan does not have a strong government, the Taliban took over. Now, the reason they took over mainly is because of the resources. They have an entire whole country with them. They have all the oil. They'll give them tons and tons of money and power.
Now, since the Taliban had tons and tons of oil and had a whole country of weapons, what exactly did they want from Afghanistan? What did they want to achieve?
So with Afghanistan, ultimately, since they're a terrorist group, they want to increase power. Now with Afghanistan, that's their first step into promoting non-democratic ideas and expanding throughout the world. So that's what their main goal is with Afghanistan.
And what did the Taliban have against the US?
Can you please repeat your question?
What did the Taliban have against the US? Why do they hate the US so much?
The main reason they hate the U.S. and most terrorist groups hate the U.S. because they're the most democrat. We are the most, I guess, free. Not we're the country that promotes freedom, and is the main reason the democratic ideas around the world have started. U.S. is the main reason, like India and many countries in the world, is a democracy. So, well, since they want to increase, since democratic means giving power to the people, the Taliban does not want that. They want power for themselves. And so, if the US keeps on promoting these democratic ideas, the Taliban will not get power affect them.
In while the Taliban want to get more and more power, which increasingly makes their passion for conquering countries more and more, what did they have a lasting effect? Or what effect did they leave on the world?
The main effect they left on the world is that want resources. They want power, and now every country knows that they will fight wars for 20 years to to get what they want. So that's what I think most countries should take away from this.
You mentioned a lot about Taliban had how the Taliban had an effect on Afghanistan and how they were basically targeting almost every single person of Afghanistan. But is there do you think there's any way how we can get the Taliban out of this country or how we can just fight back?
I don't think any countries will will fight against the Taliban now, because ultimately the U.S. retreated its troops from Taliban because it was not a war to fight anymore. And yes, the U.S. did have knowledge they, that they will increase their power, but what you have to understand, it's not worth risking many lives and many men just for just for protection of another country. And also, what the Afghanistan people say uh, happened, what the Afghanistan people experienced when the Taliban took over is actually initially they said that we're not going to be as evil, let's say, when they were in 2007, where they enforced laws against women's rights and that they have to be with men and religion was banned and a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow, that must take a big toll on the people and women and children in Afghanistan, and that much should be a really big problem for them as their lives get harder. But as the Taliban start to terrorize more and more countries, how should we, as the United States of America, recognize the Taliban government? They will keep on going, but how should we enforce laws in order for them to make them stop and have peace in the world?
What mainly the US can do is just be extremely aware of what the Taliban is going to do next. Now currently they're just in Afghanistan, but if let's say they start expanding to Pakistan or to any other country, that's when the US should start really be starting to get worried about the Taliban. And ultimately, the US cannot enforce any rules in the world to control the Taliban. And the Taliban mainly, their main ideologies will always stay with them, even if, no matter what the US does.
Wow, I had never thought about the Taliban like that because all we just think about is how the Taliban has an effect and how they just want to fight off the Afghani people. But how do you think the Afghani people lived through this crisis? And how did they survive or how did they get through it?
Now, Afghanistan, most people, once the Taliban took over, thousands of people were fleeing trying to flee out of the country. Now, for the Afghani people, they still are currently occupied by the Taliban, but they still have normal rights like going out on the streets and doing things that they want. But the Taliban may sooner or later start enforcing laws against the Afghani people to increase power on them and show that they have power.
Wow, that must be worse because as time passes, the Taliban may start enforcing laws again for people in right, for people who have fair rights. But what do you think about the Taliban's promises or how they will not be evil anymore? How is how can that be related or help us in rights?
I personally think we should not trust the Taliban. Now, they have a history in 2007 when they did occupy Afghanistan. They didn't say they were not going to promote restrictions on people, but they still did them, and ultimately that is one main thing that's holding them back to increase their power and go into wars and expand their sphere of influence. So eventually, I do think the Taliban, even though they say that they will give equal rights to the people, but eventually they will most likely be enforcing laws and promoting their own ideas.
I never really thought that the Afghanistan might have a really good effect on Afghanistan. But if we already said this, could you repeat why the Taliban might be a good thing, or what are some good things that have come out of the Taliban?
Now, there's one main good thing about why the Taliban why the US led Taliban is that we will not see any more men die from this war. It's been 20 years of fighting, and it was never worth it to keep on fighting just to protect this country, and the US will also financially benefit from this.
Wow, we have learned so much about the Taliban's lasting effect on the world and how we should take our time out of our day to try to help this world become a better place. We have truly learned a lot, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.